One of my former watercolour teachers, Robert Wade, would have told me that if I failed to plan, I'd plan to fail. And he's probably right if I was trying to do a major work of art. But I was just playing around and learning what I could, discovering these lovely Diamine inks that they put out at Christmas time. This one's got a lot of glitter in it, and a lot of this was experimentation because I'd never used these inks before. Now I'm putting it down onto beautiful high quality watercolour paper, 100% rag content, and I did find that this ink bled a little bit too much for really lovely writing, so I thought I'd go straight in and do some wash work with it. It's a very vibrant colour, well, ideal for Christmas time inks because you could sit down and do lovely little greeting cards if you were to get their ink pen calendars and use the glitter inks for that purpose. Now, because they're glitter inks, I'm using dip pens because I just find that glitter is not as easy to clean out of a fountain pen. So I prefer not to put them inside the pen, just to dip the ink, the nib in. My way of counteracting a highly vibrant shrieking colour that it's a little bit too bright is to go in with the opposite colour. So I've chosen for this, it's a colour that had a lot of green in it, and I've used that to neutralise some of the brightness of the green. It doesn't look very green here where I put it down. So it's interesting how an ink colour will change quite often depending on the paper that it goes down on, and also the lighting effects. Because it's got a shimmer to it, it will appear different if you hit it with a different angle of light. That's when this dries off. I'll pick it up and move the paper around and let you see the amount of variation there is in the colour range. Again, as I said, wonderful for experimental work. Ink is a lot more fun than watercolour in that it's so changeable. It's unpredictable, and a lot of that's fun if you've got that personality that you can enjoy, not being certain what your work is going to turn out like. Look at that shimmer's just gorgeous if for the right sort of thing, maybe not for a fine art piece but for these simple decorative style pieces. The ink colour dictated what I would do for the illustration. I'm in this vibrant, very hot colour. It was just ideal for doing the vibrance of the eucalypt blossoms. And I'm trying to neutralise it again even more by going into a neutral tone. And these are actually suggesting gum nuts. Now the paper is damp, so as I'm putting down the basis for these little gum nuts, it's actually bleeding. I'm getting a very soft edge, and so I've got variation of a soft bleeding edge where I'm putting it down on the damp paper, but when I draw towards the centre of this illustration where the actual gum blossoms are, the paper is dry there, so I'll get a crisper, cleaner edge. I'm working with a Conway Stewart pen. I have quite a few Conway Stewart pens that are waiting to have the sacks put in them. They're vintage pens and they need their sacks that hold the ink replaced, and I haven't done that, so they're just ideal for me to use in the meantime as dip pens. Now, this is where my teacher Robert Wade's advice would come to mind. If I failed to plan, I planned to fail because I had no prior idea of what I was going to do other than that I was going to experiment and discover more about this particular ink that's been sitting on my desk waiting for me to get to it. So there was no prior plan as to what to do at all. So we have to work a little bit harder at this to pull it together. I love the twigginess of nature. If I have a style, it's that I rather love casualness, rustic, the bush, So, and I'm also striving to work loose and free. I don't want to work tight and formal these days. I'm in my mid-70s, and art for me is fun these days. I earned my living as a professional artist, and I did a lot of commissioned works where my work needed to please clients. And now I'm just working for pure fun. And this little piece, it's an A5 size. It's a folded piece of watercolour paper, and it would be ideal to become a couple of pages in an art journal, a handmade art journal. I've been asked how I make my art journals, and I tend to do the pages before I make the journal. So it could be used as a greeting card. I'm going to see somebody very special tomorrow, and I could take it to them as a greeting card and write on the inside. I could, as I said, if it turns out all right, put it in a page in a hand-bound art journal. And what I tend to do is I do these subjects on the folded A5 size paper, and I put them into subject matter. So I'll have a whole series of these little paintings. Might be of Lake Dalesford, and then I might have some that might be of the Australian marsupial animals, or I could have one of wildflowers or my cottage garden. So at the moment I'm just looking at the other pages on the back and just decorating around the edges, and I might do other illustrations in them. I found this ink bled on the watercolour paper, so I'm not going to do any more writing on this particular paper with this particular ink. I don't normally find the inks bleed, but this one did. And what I'll probably do is write on Tomio River paper, and I might either do it as a folded sheet and bind it into the journal, or I could even glue the section where I wrote here, spring, it's nature's way of saying let's party. The smaller print there has bled, so I've been inclined to rework over that with opaque material, maybe gouache or acrylic, and develop that as a mixed media painting. So this could be taken on and developed even more. At the moment I'm just showing you the inks, the Diamine inks in the lovely Yuletide Christmas collection from last year. They're putting out a collection again this year. So if you're interested in these lovely shimmerings, the ones that are suitable for Christmas decoration, these are the ones to go for. Just lovely. Please subscribe to follow my fun and penning journaling.